Wrestling Illustrated and various other wrestling publications over the years. I mean, we followed both their respective careers as wrestling fans. Who hasn't, as a wrestling fan, followed the careers of both The Undertaker and Sting, their similarities, their differences? This is a match that needs to happen at a WrestleMania, and I see the earliest tentative date being next year's WrestleMania at WrestleMania 32. There have been other suggestions for The Undertaker's final match and his final opponent, along with The Rock, Ryback, and Sheamus, are two other suggestions. Now, if The Undertaker was going to face Ryback or Sheamus, he would have done it when he fought CM Punk, because that would have been the person who would have replaced Punk back at WrestleMania 29. Or a Bray Wyatt kind of scenario where The Undertaker would have faced Sheamus or Ryback being replacing Bray Wyatt in the match, because, in my opinion, The Undertaker's just fed certain opponents every year at WrestleMania just to keep this streak alive. That's pretty much what has been happening for The Undertaker. He's been just fed opponent after opponent, with a significant opponent popping up every once in a while for the title in a Hell in a Cell match like Triple H and Shawn Michaels. It's only in recent years the streak has had a great deal of emphasis placed upon it in matches with Shawn Michaels and Triple H and CM Punk, and I think that The Undertaker would be just fed an opponent if he were to face someone like Sheamus or Ryback for his final match, and it really wouldn't make any sense to me. So if they were going to do The Undertaker versus Ryback, or The Undertaker versus Sheamus, or The Undertaker versus a Shield member like a Dean Ambrose sort of character, they would have done it around the same time he would have faced Punk, because Dean Ambrose, say, would have replaced Punk in the match between The Undertaker and Punk when Punk was just coming off his 434-day reign as champion, and even then there was a great deal of significance on it. So The Undertaker cannot go into this year's WrestleMania facing an opponent that is much lower on a level in WWE than what he is. He has to face someone, in my opinion, on his same level, and the only way for him to do that would be to have a match with Sting. And this match is definitely a match that's been talked about enough, and there's been enough publicity ever since Sting signed a Legends contract with WWE. This is the most talked about match ever in the history of professional wrestling. I can't tell you how many wrestling articles I have read for publications like Pro Wrestling Illustrated over the years talking about what would ever happen if Sting and The Undertaker ever crossed paths in a WWE or WCW ring. And I think that The Undertaker definitely should have faced Sting in Sting's first match in WWE. I say that because, I mean, we waited long enough to see it. Why did we have to go with Sting versus Triple H? Obviously because WWE, the answer to this is obviously because WWE wants to promote The Undertaker versus Sting, and they want to promote the hell out of it. And the reason behind The Undertaker-Bray Wyatt match this year at WrestleMania 31, the same year Sting collided with Triple H for the first time, it was to get rid of that animosity between Sting and Triple H that existed for years, when Sting said he would never work for the McMahon family or Triple H. In a YouTube video that was posted in 2005, they wanted to get that animosity out of the way, let bygones be bygones. The NWO Wolfpack and the D-Generation X members patching things up, and The Undertaker facing Bray Wyatt was just to signify The Undertaker's return, since the streak ended at the hands of Brock Lesnar last year at WrestleMania 30. There's also been a lot of very interesting conversation about if The Undertaker was going to face Sting, Sting would have been the man to end The Undertaker's streak at WrestleMania. That's not the case, because there is more significance, in my opinion, that can go with Sting versus The Undertaker than just being for The Undertaker's streak, and Sting being the man to go 21-1 like Lesnar did at last year's previous WrestleMania back at WM30. In my opinion, the loser has to go, and there's only one room for one phenom in WWE, and The Undertaker, of course, after 25 years, with this being his 25th year, going on 26 by the time we get to WrestleMania 32 next year in Dallas. I think it would be great to see The Undertaker have one final match against Sting. It's been talked about on The Undertaker's contract for a long time, and I had a lot of conversations with a lot of people off here about The Undertaker's career and how much longer he was going to last. It was believed 3 or 4 years ago by a lot of people who I had interviewed, like Henry Godwin, who was close personal friends with The Undertaker. He believed at that point The Undertaker was going to wrestle until he was physically unable to compete in a WWE ring. I agreed. I concurred with Henry Godwin and the $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase, several individuals I spoke on about The Undertaker's state of his career and his contract. But in my opinion, I think The Undertaker's time is coming up, just as John Cena's time is coming up before the end of 2015. It's predicted that John Cena will be leaving WWE, going away for a significant amount of time, and I think The Undertaker's pretty much going to go with him. I think it's time. I'll go on record for saying I think it's time for The Undertaker's career to end in WWE after 25 years. I mean, Shawn Michaels went at 25, Edge went at 13, Stone Cold Steve Austin went at 20-plus years. There's rumors about The Rock's retirement coming up at either next year's Hall of Fame or the Hall of Fame after. Everybody's time seems to be coming up in professional wrestling. So if there ever was a time for The Undertaker to go in professional wrestling. I think now is that time. They can't keep putting it off and putting it off and putting it off. If he's going to go, he has to go now, either at the expense of Sting or somebody else, and preferably I'd rather see it be Sting, given their similarities, their differences, their comparisons we've seen over the years. God knows we have heard enough comparisons between Sting and The Undertaker. If we can go here in comparisons between Goldberg and Ryback and Bret Hart and The Rock for years and years and years, and Stone Cold Steve Austin and CM Punk, comparison after comparison after comparison, we need to have a match that we'll remember for years, and this is going to be a match, in my opinion, for the ages, and it's going to be a terrific opportunity, a phenomenal opportunity for the newer generation of wrestling fans who are coming after us as wrestling fans who got familiarized with Sting and The Undertaker at young ages. It's going to be a terrific opportunity for newer fans to become familiarized with Sting and The Undertaker who never got the chance to see them in their respective brands during the Monday Night War for WWE and WCW. I think this is a fantastic opportunity that everybody should take advantage of. So if you're an old school wrestling fan who's watched wrestling for years, you have a young son or daughter, I think this is a tremendous opportunity to get them introduced into the product, because Sting and The Undertaker can be demonstrated to them as to why they were icons of their respective generations. I mean, what other way can you describe Sting and The Undertaker rather than referring to them as icons? There's really no other way, because without them being the true phenoms of professional wrestling, I mean, what really was there to fall back on? Hulk Hogan, Stone Cold Steve Austin, and now people like John Cena and Randy Orton are left to fill the void. In the absence of people like The Undertaker and Sting, in my opinion, there was no one really other than The Undertaker and Sting who could carry their respective brands to the promised lands, the proverbial promised lands, and they definitely did that, holding respective championships in their respective brands. They were both world champions of their respective brands. They virtually held every championship they were eligible to compete for. While The Undertaker didn't hold the Intercontinental Championship, it's considered that he held virtually every title that he was eligible to compete for, from the Hardcore Championships to the Tag Team title. Sting is the same way in WCW. It was almost as if they were mirror images of one another, in my opinion. And you can quote me on saying this if you ever read a column or you do a video blog of your own. It's almost like they were mirror images of each other, and I think that's what Eric Bischoff and Ted Turner wanted to create and redistribute Sting as. When the NWO tried to invade WCW, they brought Sting back as kind of a leader of WCW trying to go up against the NWO, and he went dark when he returned. And it was that point in Sting's career, I think, that was the most critical point in Sting's career, because he tried to be a mirror image of The Undertaker. And it was almost like WCW was trying to counteract everything WWE were throwing their way in the ratings war with The Undertaker character, who made his debut in 1990. Sting, of course, goes back further than that, and The Undertaker goes back further than that as names as the Skyscraper in World Championship Wrestling. But it was almost like when The Undertaker left under those names WCW were giving them, it was almost like WCW was kind of vengeful towards WWE for taking advantage of signing The Undertaker in the early 90s as part of the $1 Million Man Survivor Series team. The Undertaker came in and decimated every single member of the opposing team, the opposition. And it was like WCW was trying to counteract everything Vince McMahon and WWE as a global promotion was trying to do with The Undertaker, and they tried to do it with Sting, and they were successful. It was one of the few things WCW was successful at doing, and one of the reasons why, if WCW were to have survived, it would have been because of Sting, because he believed in WCW. If there was an individual who bled WCW, it wasn't a member of the NWO, because they were just showing up and getting paid to show up and do an NWO gimmick, an invasion sort of angle. It wasn't someone like a Diamond Dallas Page or a Goldberg or a Bret Hart, because he just signed with WCW because of a $9 million dispute, making $3 million per 3-year contract with WWE. It was because of someone like Sting, who was there from the get-go and remained with WCW up until the point they closed their doors. So to say Sting wasn't loyal to WCW would kind of be a lie, because he definitely was, just as he carried that over to TNA, and he was happy to compete in TNA, and then left that, did some independent wrestling promotional work. He started appearing on the independents. Now he's back to a major promotion. And I said, a couple of weeks ago on my WrestleMania 31 Fallout Shoot video that I wasn't really pleased with how WWE had brought Sting in his very first match, having him lose to Triple H, and I still stand to that. I don't agree with how they treated Sting, kicking him in the face with Shawn Michaels and Generation X, getting involved in the match the way they did. I thought it was very disrespectful towards Sting's legacy to have him kicked in the face and be pedigreed by Triple H, the combination of the super kick and the pedigree being the demise of Sting, and then Sting and Triple H shaking hands, which is the only point of that match that really stood out to me as a pivotal moment in that match, and a pivotal moment in professional wrestling history, because we never thought we'd see two icons like Sting and Triple H shaking hands and letting bygones be bygones. But in my opinion, the way they should have dealt with that is Sting should have came in with his trademark entrance, doing the entrance from the Raptors with his trademark baseball bat. It should have been a no-holds-barred match, and Sting should have won with either the Scorpion Death drop or the Scorpion Death lock submission hold, making Triple H tap out. Sting signifies his entry into WWE like you would have expected years ago, and if this match would have happened years ago, let me state for the record, Sting probably would have won the match, but because of so many politics now in 2015, we are faced with as opposed to a match that probably if this were to have happened back in 95, Sting probably would have won, but because of the politics and all the issues that exist outside of the wrestling business and behind the proverbial closed doors, this is why we're seeing people like Sting getting screwed at every opportunity and people like Triple H getting the benefit of the doubt. Why? Because he's a WWE loyal character. Give me a break. Sting should have won this match, and Sting should be the one who's, getting the advantage over Triple H all the time and the opponents that he has, at least for a little while. So, Sting in the Undertaker's match, hopefully this will present an opportunity for Sting to actually win a match in WWE. And if there ever was a time for Sting to win a match in WWE, it would be now to send The Undertaker out, who's had a perfect career in WWE. And let me also say, I think The Undertaker can afford to lose this match because I see Sting being a little bit more inferior than The Undertaker because Sting has not won a match yet since his arrival in WWE, since his debut back at last year's Survivor Series. He's coming off a loss to Triple H, so that's going to be momentum that Sting is going to be carrying with him on his shoulders going into this match. So I don't see Sting losing this match and going 0-2 for his two matches he will have up to that point in WWE or whoever he faces next as his next opponent. There's also rumors Sting will face Seth Rollins